We got Stephen M. Smith, Touchdown Alabama, joining us to talk Tide. And, of course, you can catch Stephen every Monday, Wednesday, Friday right here on YouTube at 6:30 Central. It's In My Own Words. Stephen, how you doing today?
Well, doing good, Mark. I'm right here in Dallas, Texas at the Omni Hotel for the media days. Wednesday was outstanding. We got a chance to hear Coach DeBoer today work in the room, his first time in the SEC doing this, where it definitely means more. And, of course, Malachi Moore, Jalen Milroe, and Tyler Booker accompanying him to Dallas.
Actually, Stephen, we're going to start out the conversation by asking you somebody not on the Alabama football team, but he's a young, aspiring broadcaster by the name of Nick Sabin.
Oh, man, he was there too, and he's been hogging up all the spotlight this week, making his takes, being hilariously initially turned away from media days because he did not have on his credentials. So now he gets the full taste of what it means to be a media now. But he was let back in when he had his credential on, and he's been having fun with this, Mark, a part of that whole ESPN deal that he's got now, along with being an advisor to the Alabama football program. So Nick Sabin, the analyst, had some good takes this week.
So I just took in Kalen DeBoer about an hour ago, and I wasn't really shocked and awed by anything in particular that he stated, but I'll tell you this, Stephen. My overall impression was he seemed a lot of first-year head coaches in the SEC, first time in the SEC, you can tell a bit nervousness, a bit uptight, a bit wowed by the big stage from a media standpoint. But Kalen DeBoer seems right at home, completely relaxed and at ease.
I mean, Mark, he does. The only thing he said that's different between South Dakota and Tuscaloosa is the heat. That's the only thing. He says, man, I'm sweating a lot here. It's hot, but the people he's been around, the relationships he's starting to create, it reminds him of home. It reminds him of South Dakota, and that's huge to put him at that level of comfort, but most importantly, at that level of confidence. He worked the room a lot today. Gave a lot of kudos to Coach Sabin. Coach Sabin gave quite a few kudos to him, but he is bought into this team, and this team is bought into him as the head coach. It's been an incredibly smooth transition from Nick Sabin to Kalen DeBoer.
And you talked about first entering campus, entering the university, and taking over the football program, and just simply saying, I have to listen to people first. I'm going to be a listener. I'm going to take in what's important to them about Alabama football, the traditions, and everything that's here.
He mentioned that, Mark. He talked about taking notes from the players. When he first got here, those in-state guys like a Malachi Moore, a Deontay Lawson, a Tim Keenan, he sat down and took notes from those guys that grew up in the state of Alabama, that grew up in the culture, that grew up in the standard of what it means to play and to coach here. And he took notes from those guys, and he learned from those guys. Now, of course, DeBoer is going to have his own style, his own flavor. He's going to do it his way. But it meant a lot to hear him talk about, taking notes from guys that have been here, taking notes from coaches he's been up under, going into Nick Saban's office and acquiring things from him, even though Sabin not going to overstep his boundary, but just seeing how people have poured into him and how he's began to pour into the program. DeBoer feels right at home in Tuscaloosa.
Stephen, I love to lean on you for the player profiles. So we've got 3 Bama players selected for SEC Media Days here. Can you take us through each one of these players that was selected, why they were chosen, their leadership ability, what they bring to the table, both on and off the field, and what your outlook is for each one of them during the 2024 season?
Okay, there we go. Well, absolutely, Mark. You look at the 3 guys that were brought in to the room here, Jalen Milroe, Malachi Moore, and Tyler Booker. I mean, the main reason why Jalen Milroe was brought in, of course, his leadership at the quarterback position, what he means coming back as a returning starter to the SEC, had over 2,000 passing yards last year, 2,834, 35 touchdowns in this offense. He looks to have a lot of fun in this offense with Kalen DeBoer. Malachi Moore, the leader on defense. And from that secondary, from the back end, of course, we look at Deontay Lawson at that Mike linebacker position as a leader as well. But Malachi Moore, a guy that's been there, done that, has a championship ring. And then, of course, you got Tyler Booker, the Hoss, the big man up front on the offensive line at that offensive guard position. He has stepped into a leadership role as well.
All right, Stephen. Once these guys get back and you all head back to Tuscaloosa, how many more days until training camp starts?
Well, fall camp starts July 31st, that Wednesday. Final Wednesday of the month, final day of the month, July 31st starts fall camp. And you got the morning practices with Kalen DeBoer, which the players are beginning to like right now. They can get in, they can get out, get their hot tub, cold tub treatment, get the body right, being able to study film and be around their teammates more after practice. So first day of camp is July 31st.
As you well know, you've been out to Tide practice hundreds of times throughout your career and are very familiar with this football team. And I know that you got a strategy on how to cover this team. So when you are out there for the first time, there's so much to take in. Where are your eyes going to go first?
First of all, Mark, you know me, that offensive line. That's where my eyes are going first, that offensive line. After giving up 44 sacks last year, how do they get better? Under Chris Kaplovich is going to be a big thing there. My eyes will be on the offensive line. Number two, the defensive secondary. You got a lot of youth back there, especially you got two corners you got to replace, and Kool-Aid McKinstry and Terrion Arnold, who are now in the NFL. It's great to have Malachi Moore back at safety. You got Keon Saab, the transfer from Michigan. But how does this young secondary stack up?
Jalen Milroe, he was very impressive. I caught his session, and boy, he was focused and delivered some very thoughtful answers and just seemed like a professional.
I mean, came in ready to go. Came in with the mindset of, he wants to win a championship. He wants to be at his very best, but he wants to lead this team to a championship, and came in with the mindset and also the swagger. I mean, all these guys have the swagger going. Big chains, nice suits, watches, cowboy hats, everything definitely bigger in Texas. So not just the mindset of the athlete on the field, but these guys came in with the mindset to dress well.
We got Stephen M. Smith of Touchdown Alabama here breaking down the Tide for us from SEC Media Days in Dallas. Any thoughts about the location there and how things have worked out this time around with the SEC invading Big D?
I thought it went well. I mean, the food was on point. The food was on point. Got to give them that. They did a great job with that. But the location was fantastic. Everybody was able to fit in here on Radio Row, and all throughout the media, pundits were able to find their spot pretty handily there. Registration was good. So having it in Dallas was a good spot this year. Very good spot this year. Now, next year, it returns to Atlanta, but Big D was good.
One other thing before we let you go, a big emphasis on a lot of former coaches. Of course, Nick Sabin was talked about a ton for good reason, but unfortunately, of course, Monty Kiffin passed away here in the last week, so much given to him. Also, Mike Leach, even though it's been a season removed, that he was brought up, Eli Drinkwitz in particular, talking about how he should be in the Hall of Fame. Just your thoughts about the coaching fraternity and how these guys respect each other.
It's incredible, Mark, the fraternity. It's so incredible when you talk about it. I mean, Mike Leach, the legend that he was, it still stings how he's no longer with us and what he gave us, not just on the field, but the gyms and just the stuff that you just don't expect a lot of people to say. Mike Leach wasn't afraid to say it, off the field. So it still stings not to have him and Monty Kiffin, the influence he was, not just as a defensive coach, but as a man and as a leader, amongst men out there. And of course, we all know Nick Sabin, no longer coaching at Alabama, no longer coaching in college football, but just what he gave as just the nuggets he provided, the insight he provided, and just being an everyday, human being out there in terms of college football. The fraternity is special, Mark. It's just special fraternity.
Stephen M. Smith, Touchdown Alabama. You see the X handle right there. Please follow Stephen right there. You'll be glad you did. Again, Touchdown Alabama. In my own words, is the show every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It's right here on YouTube at 6:30 Central. Steven, safe travels. Great to see you. I'm glad that the food met your standards.
Hey, appreciate you, Mark. You take care.